Thank you for joining us today as we explore the evolution of omnichannel trends for 2025. I'm Alicia, a Customer Success Manager here at Pendula, and I will be moderating this panel interview on key omnichannel trends today. We've got two industry experts on the panel. Hi, Chris and John. I'll go ahead and let you both introduce yourselves.
Sure. So hi, everyone. Chris Connolly. I lead solution engineering here at Twilio. I probably got to say early up, I'm a closet marketer. I've been in marketing in a VP role for product marketing at a previous tech company for some time, but I've made my way back to engineering, and it's a lot of fun to see the intersection of marketing and sales and technology, which is why I'm here today. And very keen to talk to you about the topic on omnichannel, which is kind of a loaded word as we unpack that as well. So, John, over to you.
Thanks, mate. Hey, everyone. I'm John, Managing Director of Honeycomb Strategy. So we're a strategic research agency. We work with brands across all industries, but mainly in service, tech, and retail. And it's really about helping to understand product market fit, go-to-market strategy, and brand strategy. So very similar journey to Chris. A lot of my passion is around helping product teams and marketing teams come together to make sure they're kicking goals for their customers. And really looking forward to the session.
Awesome. Well, great to have you both here. So to kick off our discussion, let's revisit the concept of omnichannel marketing and why it is so important. Omnichannel marketing essentially means engaging with customers across their preferred channels, be it SMS, WhatsApp, email, apps, or even new channels like RCS. Research indicates that over half of B2C customers engage with 3 to 5 channels during their purchasing or service interactions. And latest reports also show that omnichannel customers shop 1.7 times more frequently and tend to spend more than those who stick to a single channel. So with that in mind, I'd like to ask, how have you seen omnichannel marketing change in recent years, and what major developments do you expect will influence the landscape as we look ahead to 2025?
Yeah, I can jump into that one first, Alicia. I think the perspective I can add is from the customer perspective and really what they're looking for in brands and businesses. And if I think about what true omnichannel marketing is from a customer perspective, it's really about creating a seamless, consistent experience for customers. So no matter what channel they're engaging with the brand, they're having a similar level of consistency and in return, the same expectations with who they're interacting with. I think in terms of trends that we're seeing come up, there's definitely over the past few years been an increasing fragmentation of channels. There's a lot more options for customers to interact with brands, and even further than that, devices as well. So being able to enter on the laptop, my watch, my smart fridge, there's so many devices happening at the same time. But I think what's really exciting heading into 2025 is the power of things like AI and automation and its ability to create a tighter integration across all of those channels to really streamline the experiences.
Yeah, I'll probably add to that maybe a dimension of our cookieless future that's been building for several years now as well. So we've been reliant on these cookies, which I think we've all experienced at some point. You know, little bits of crumb data that sits on our browser that tells us what we've been doing. And increasingly, everything's digital, right? So whether it's on your phone or on your mobile or on your partner's computer, that we've been building to a world where cookies are sort of disappearing, and that's kind of driven about a lot of change in the landscape on how we're targeting people, how we're segmenting them, what audiences we can build. And that really stretches across every single channel. I mean, your TV is watching you, you're not watching it in so many ways. And so that omni-channel strategy really does extend all the way out to, at-home display. And increasingly what we've seen in the last couple of years is that connectivity from what has exclusively been a MarTech world and those signals that are like, targeting audiences to being driven from signals that are driven from service organizations that are using, sentiment, they're using NPS, and a lot of that data folding into the experience. And as we look to 2025 and beyond, we think that is really the holy grail of personalization of one, which I think everyone's been chasing for 20 years now, is kind of getting to fruition through generative content, generative experiences, generative everything. And so, yeah, it's an exciting time to be in this space.
Right. So it sounds like true omnichannel marketing is all about giving customers smooth, consistent experiences everywhere they engage, even as channels and devices get more and more scattered, thanks to AI and automation helping to tie it all together. Well, that's a perfect segue into our next question, which is that we've seen that organizations that integrate AI into their customer engagement platforms can enhance operational efficiencies by at least 25%, thereby significantly improving customer service, for example. How do you see AI and automation influencing organizations' omnichannel marketing strategies? And do you anticipate these to become even more important next year?
Uh, Happy to take that. I'm going to take that in reverse order. So, do I see it in 2025? Absolutely. And AI is infused in everything. It's not just a thing that you buy, it's something that is a way of programming. It is a feature that is included in so many platforms. And as software vendors, everyone is infusing some type of AI in really interesting ways, whether it is just getting the tone and voice right for the content that is being produced, using generative AI for images or entire campaigns, using generative AI to build audiences and sequences. It is absolutely pervasive. It's everywhere. And there's kind of a rise of new touch points as well. So one of the things that we're most excited about as we look to, particularly in Australia in 2025, is RCS, which is a real-time communication service. It is essentially the evolution of SMS. Now, everyone's got probably a phone in their pocket, or at least probably a meter away from them at this point in time, and you can probably see it. SMS is still one of the most opened pieces of content that you get. You'll ignore an email, but you probably won't ignore a text. And so as we get into RCS, it essentially brings out new capabilities for images, for carousels, for buttons, new ways to engage. So it's sort of the revival of what is an old school channel into 2025. Now, the reason we're waiting is because we need carriers on board, we need Google on board. But when that comes, and it has started to land in our region already, and it's in iOS 18 now, so it's coming really soon, that also gives us a surface to put even more generative content into those channels. So I think what we're going to see for automated outreach is hyper-targeted individualization of communications. They're going to target like John specifically with a display ad and a picture about the conversation that he's just had with his banker on a different channel, and it's hyper relevant. And so this is one of those areas that, as we unpack into 2025, is going to be vital for marketers as they look at the reinvigoration of like personal communications in your pocket. John, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. I really feel like we're still very early stages in where AI can take us, especially in this space. The way I'd kind of describe it to my team is we're very much in the Wild West era still of AI and what it can do. And there's a lot of, I guess, experimentation. And I genuinely feel that we're still at the tip of the iceberg with what it can do. I think what you're saying before, Chris, around personalization is a really big opportunity there, and the ability to do real-time two-way interaction and personalization to create that one-to-one experience for customers is huge. We did a big piece of research earlier this year on data privacy, and some of the most sensitive types of data from a customer's perspective is things like name, email, bank details, phone numbers, current location, which is challenging. Obviously, there's a lot of personal data there. I think where there's a lot of opportunity is on what customers see as less sensitive data, things like interaction data, like browsing behavior, filters, that sort of thing, that can really help to take that personalized experience to the next level, and really help to build I guess, a more meaningful value exchange for the information that consumers are giving. A good example that comes to mind is like, how do we define that one-to-one customer? A good example is like Amazon. A single account is a definition of one customer in theory. my wife and I share the same account, so we access Amazon on different devices. I think where AI and automation can really take it to the next level is identify that distinct devices are behaving quite differently in terms of what they're searching for, as an example. So a dream state for me is to not get as many kids books and kids toys affiliate marketing as I'm browsing, because that's my wife's business and I prefer to keep it over there.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. So we've been watching YouTube. I've got an 8-year-old, and I've noticed he's on my account,
Yeah.
but the YouTube videos that show up at certain times of day are clearly for him and not for me. And so it feels like Google's figured that out, exactly to your point of like shared device, different times of day, different users. I, I don't know how they're doing it. Well, we know how they're doing it, but yeah, incredible. I love that insight, John.
Yeah. And Bluey brings us all together.
Very true.
Yeah, so well, we're clearly still in the early days of AI and just scratching the surface there. It's really interesting to hear that we're increasingly moving towards interaction data rather than just personal data. And it's really all about creating meaningful, valuable exchanges for customers. Talking about omnichannel strategies, it seems like data integration and data management are really at the heart of it all. We know that over the next 5 years, as much as $2 trillion in revenue will shift to companies that know how to create personalized experiences and communications. And leaders in personalization grow revenue 10 percentage points faster annually than laggards, and also enjoy higher customer satisfaction scores. How do you both see the role of data in creating personalized customer journeys? And can you share any insights on how you have seen effective data management impact approaches to connecting with customers across different channels?
Look, happy to take that one as well. Data is vital, and if we look at the last, probably again, last couple of years, the race has been on from all these tech companies to build these large language models. And the way they've done that is by harvesting all of our data, by harvesting Reddit comments and Facebook comments. They've used our pictures to build these incredible models that have kind of bringing about the next. I remember when Google landed and it was sort of profound in the way that we use the internet. We're living through that moment with large language models at the moment, and it's starting to be infused. But that race of data is starting to come to an end because now the walls are going up. The terms and conditions are starting to make it harder for organizations to harvest that. What that has, the byproduct of that is that now the data that companies have is incredibly important as the unique differentiator to them. So what we're seeing is a world where the role of like a customer data platform with real-time context that can feed an LLM is becoming the thing, at least for the next couple of years, that organizations are going to race to, because we're taking advantage of the hard work and we're paying for it through incremental tokens on the large language models to build these audiences, but or content or whatever it may be. But having that real-time data of what did Alicia do 5 seconds ago on the website or in the mobile app to then inform an LLM to then create a personalized experience is vital. So that the data and integration of all of that data from real-time data, and that's kind of the underscore here, is your data that's an hour old is stale. It's immediately stale because that user's moved on, they've gotten off the train, they're no longer thinking about that. So that in-moment data that you can use to personalize and engage is critical for not just omnichannel, but the entire journey through marketing and into service. So again, what we're seeing with some of our clients that are doing this well is they're taking their service data. Did John have a bad experience with an agent in contact center? And then using that to inform whether or not they actually do a display ad to John in real time. Because if your sentiment is low, he's probably not going to buy now. But if he had a great interaction with someone, maybe he'll buy something else and we can start to target him. So it is vital, I guess, is what my takeaway there. But that real-time data nature is what we see. John, is that borne out in your research, or you got a different perspective on that as well?
I think it complements it nicely. It's interesting because if we look at the past couple of years of this data privacy piece of research that I mentioned before, we've seen this increasing level of distrust between customers and organizations asking for data. And the context around that is really that customers don't, up until this point, feel like they're getting the value exchange. So they're giving a lot and they're not getting as much back because they feel the personalizations that they've historically received token at best, and they haven't really seen it effectively executed. What I think is really interesting, and I love that you mentioned LLMs, because I mean, if you look at anyone interacting with ChatGPT, it blows my mind how much personal information they're willingly giving the large language model. And it's mainly because they're getting value directly in exchange immediately. And so if I go back to, I guess, where the opportunity is for data integration and management, it's around really having that single source of truth on the customer, so that no matter what channel the customer is interacting with you, it's centralized in one place. You're able to make sure that the data that you have on them is completely usable and accessible so that you can really maximize the customer experience and really ensure that you're delivering on the expectations that for a long time customers have wanted, but they've gotten a bit tired of not actually receiving it in kind.
I almost want to debate you on one of those comments, and
Hit me. I love it.
the data needs to be in one place, and I think it doesn't. And the reason is it needs to be accessible,
Yes.
but it can be distributed. And I think this is one of the things that we're seeing with the, so many systems that we've got in our ecosystems now. The data is never in one place. It's always everywhere. But if we can get to it in some structured way or through a tunnel, then it's, that's okay, right? We don't have to put it all in a big snowflake or a data warehouse to make it accessible. It can be distributed. You
Yeah,
agree?
no, I think you're bang on. As long as it can talk to each other, I think that's the key thing. Because otherwise, if it's fragmented and say you're having an engagement with someone on Instagram, and then you submit a complaint because you've had a bad experience on their website and they don't know about that interaction, then there's a red flag there, and that leads to frustration from a customer perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, so it's all about in moment, real time data to create value now, essentially. Moving on to our last question. This seems like an important question for all marketers. Measuring the effectiveness of omnichannel strategies can be a bit of a puzzle, right? So from your experience, what metrics or tools have you found most helpful in assessing how well a brand is connecting with customers across different channels? Do you have any particular success stories you'd like to share?
I have as many success stories as I have mixed bags. And I think going back to that, like as long as marketings exist, there's always been a drive to find a metric to measure how successful that marketing is. And it's so important to have the right KPI, because if you're focusing on the wrong metric, it can lead a business in the completely wrong direction. Slightly biased being a customer research and insights person, but I think where I've seen the most success is when they look at it at a broader level and evaluate success as, have I created customer value based on the interactions I've had, and have I delivered on the value exchange? I think where there's a bit of a tension though, and Chris, I'd be keen to get your thoughts on this too, is that I've seen businesses try and look at ROI and effectiveness at two levels. One is channel effectiveness, so trying to understand attribution and direct impact of an individual channel on customer value, versus overall effectiveness of our channels as a holistic ecosystem. And I think the key thing with omnichannel is it's not dependent on any one channel. It's the whole fact that the ecosystem is working as a whole. So where I've seen the best success and buy-in across an entire organization is when you look at it at that higher level as an omnichannel strategy in total.
I totally agree. And I think if we go back to basics, some of the best measures that we have are still, speed to lead and, getting through the pipeline so that we actually see a sale come out the other end of it. However, we're all, one of the ideas that we've seen, which is not necessarily new, is sort of a customer effort score. and sort of minutes of engagement, or minutes of friction sometimes, which can be a bit of a leading indicator. And it depends on if it's B2C or B2B, but I'll talk in the B2B context for a second. In the B2B world, we're seeing the account group or the buying group identification as being critical to the measure, because then we can say, well, how many personas did we have engaged? Is that deviating from our norm? How many minutes are they spending with our content? How many minutes are they spending at our events? Did they show up to an all-day workshop? We can count that as 60 minutes. So having that scoring of a leading indicator that is just based on time, which is the most valuable thing that we have as humans, that's a good measure to start with. And then hopefully seeing that back end into, well, did that result in a lead, and did the sales team agree? And did we accelerate that through the pipeline from first touch all the way through, multi-touch attribution into ultimately what we're here to do, which is help our sales teams engage. So just to put a button on that, it is sort of that minutes of friction as well, or minutes of non-friction, as well as effort. Like, is the customer going to the effort to understand what you're trying to do and what your products or services or whatever you're selling, what you offer? That can be a really good indicator of whether or not it's being effective.
Very interesting. Well, that brings us to the end of our session. Thank you all for a fantastic discussion today. We've covered topics like the importance of clear value exchanges, the launch of new channels like RCS, and how to leverage data as efficiently as possible. Those are some great and thought-provoking contributions. And thank you to everyone else who joined us. We appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.